My name is Father Marty Fisher, and I'm so pleased that you decided to listen to a video today. And I'd like to share a couple things with you today. Number one, who am I? Well, I'm a Roman Catholic priest from the Albany Diocese. I've been a part of the diocese as a priest for 40 years. I just celebrated my 40th anniversary on May 31st, 2026. And it was such a joyful, blessed celebration. And in so many ways. And I talked about, on that anniversary, I talked about Pope John the 23rd, who is now a saint. And I talked about him because even at the age, I was only 8 years old. And Sister Frances Patrick came into class. He was a principal at the time. She came into class. She said, we have a new pope. We have a new pope, Pope John the 23rd. And she showed us a picture of a new Holy Father. And he's a short, stocky, older Italian man. Of course, he would change the direction of the church, but what changed most people's lives through him is his humility, and his humor, and his humanity. And everyone who met him were never the same. Even now, there's a picture of him in one of the churches I cover, and there's a big picture of John the 23rd. And every time I see that picture, I'm moved. There was something about his humility, something about his humanity that touched me. Even at the age of 8 years old. He had such a wonderful sense of humor. They asked me, Holy Father, how many people work in that Vatican? He said, well, he thought about it for a moment, paused, said the report, he said about half of them. About half of them. And he was such a powerful man, and it's still all these years later, has meant a lot. He has meant a lot to me, and so when I would like to present to you today a book I wrote. It's called the Camino Grace. Camino means on the way. Grace means God's blessing, God's favor. In 2019, I stepped down as pastor of Notre Dame Visitation Church in Schuylerville, and St. Joseph's Church in Greenwich, and Sacramental Ministry at Holy Cross in Salem. And I really wasn't sure where I was going to go, but I went on this pilgrimage trail in Spain. This pilgrimage trail is called the Camino Santiago, or the Way to St. James. It's really a network of trails leading to the remains of St. James the Apostles. St. James was the son of Zebedee. He was the brother of St. John. And his remains are at the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in northwestern Spain. Thousands of people walk this trail every year. So I walked the trail for 16 days, and that's part of this particular book. Part of that is my journey. And what was wonderful about the journey was the people. People I met every day. And they came from all over the world. And it was such a blessing. Even though I went over there alone and walked alone, I knew I was never alone. Because there are people of faith walking that trail. And I knew I was never alone because you could feel the spirit and the prayers of all those people who walked over 1,000 years walking on that trail. So every day I'd learn something. Every day someone would come along unexpectedly and they would share their story. And what I loved about their openness as the pilgrims. It seems like people weren't afraid to say, this is why I'm here. And so many of the pilgrims came looking for direction. Where am I going to go, Lord? What's my next step? And also on the trail, I met a lot of people who were grieving. They're grieving the loss of, some people grieving the loss of a job. They're grieving the loss of a parent. They lost either a child or they lost a spouse. But on the trail, that gives them that permission, number one, to share their story. It also gives them permission to grieve in the meantime. I was on the trail really looking for direction, to saying, Lord, what's my next step? And I thought after 16 days that I would get a message from the Lord saying, this is where I want you to go, Marty. And I write towards the end of the book, I said, one of my hopes for walking the Camino was to receive a better understanding of where I was going in the next chapter of my life. You see, my friends, though, it turns out that my pilgrimage spoke more about what I was to be, what the Lord wanted me to be, not so much to do. So the Camino spoke to my heart and said, Marty, take more time for silence. Don't be afraid each day to be still. Turn everything off. Put the cell phone aside. Put the computer aside. And be still. Because as we all know that, the Bible reminds us to be still. And to know that I am God. On the Camino Trail, there was a lot of time of silence. And there was a lot of time of stillness. And the message at the end said, Marty, just be still. There I am. I'm with you always. And the second message is to be present. It's hard to be present sometimes, isn't it? We live in a hurried, busy, noisy life. And we're always going. We're always in a hurry. So it's hard just to be present to people, to be present to Christ. But I'm always reminded that Christ is always fully present to each of us. And that we're called to be fully present to life. Don't look behind. Don't look ahead. But be present to what's going on in the now. And the third message is to be alive. Be open to new opportunities, new adventures, new people. Never stop learning and never stop growing. I was talking to someone today, a friend of mine today, and we were talking about how you're constantly called to grow in our faith. Grow in our faith. And the thing is about the spiritual life is there's never a time you say, I'm finished. No, you're never finished. It's a lifelong process. And God is always working on us. The Bible says that the work that God's begun in us, God will bring to completion. God's working in us. He's working in you. He's working in me. And then sometimes it's all we have to do is get out of the way. Let the Lord do the work. So this third message was simply be alive. Don't be stagnant. Be alive. Third, and the final message is be yourself because everyone else is taken. Just be yourself. God has created each and every one of us uniquely. Each one of us is God's masterpiece, created in God's image and in God's likeness. How blessed we are, my friends. How blessed we are that we're created in God's image and we're created in God's likeness. And so I would like to share this book with you. It's called Camino Grace. And the subtitle is Be Kind and Be Present and Be Yourself. It's an 11-day spiritual reflection, and I hope that you enjoy it. May God's blessing always be with you.